Tim O'Brien, vocalist, composer and multi-instrumentalist, is riding high with his album Where the River Meets the Road at number 4 in the American Billboard Bluegrass chart. This is, of course, the gold standard for country roots music, which has its origins in the east of the US. Now, Tim is proud of his Irish ancestry, which has in part informed his musical output. Now, you can see Tim O'Brien play live at Bush Hall, 310 Oxford Road, Shepherd's Bush West, 12 on the 4th of May. Now, I'm pleased to welcome him online now. Tim, a very good morning. Great to speak to you.
Great to speak to you, Jerry. How's everything in London today?
Not bad at all, Tim. Not bad at all. Some sunshine. Tim, your great-grandfather struck out from a little place called Muff, Kingscourt in County Cavan, a place that yours truly knows very well indeed. In 1851, aged 21, destined for West Virginia. Now, his is a fascinating journey and a story which we'll revisit. First of all, I'd like to focus on your career. You play a lot of instruments. Do you come from a musical family?
Well, my sister started playing the piano when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and we sang in church. And my parents were good singers, but nobody in the immediate family played an instrument. But my sister and I took it up, and kind of with a vengeance, I kept it.
Right. Now, you've been quoted as saying when breaking it to your mother that you were quitting college. Yes, I'm heading west. I know 200 songs, and I figure if I keep learning more, I should be okay. What did your mother think of that? I can't even imagine what she thought.
I think they were very suspicious of music as a career, and they wanted me to stay in college and all that kind of thing. And it took me. I made one record, and then I think I made the second one. And they said, "Well, maybe this will work out." And and then they became big fans, and they started traveling around to hear me play. Of course, they couldn't help but be a fan of what my sister and I do, being their children.
Indeed. I'm sure they were absolutely horrified at the start. Now, from the yes, from the age of 19, you played fiddle in bands. Then you learned the melodeon and the guitar. Now, you've had interesting collaborations through the years, and with eminent artists have covered your songs. Of particular interest will be links to Gareth Brooks, Steve Earle, and Paul Brady, who I'll be talking to in an upcoming programme. Can you create some of your career highlights?
Oh, I think getting to sit in with Doc Watson was a pretty good one, and I really looked up to Doc, and I still do, even though he's no longer with us. His music was the foundation in so many ways. He made the traditional music. He opened the door for so many people with the way he did it. He was so engaging and so warm with it, And I think I've tried to follow his cue, but there was one time where I got to actually invite him up on stage with me, and it was just the two of us up there. To me, that was about as good as it gets. Indeed. Now, you've worked in a number of formats, from solo to bands. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer to work solo? Well, I love the solo thing because it's very flexible, and you can sort of change directions if you need to. Depending on how the audience is reacting, you can kind of go that way. But the band takes more traffic direction, and there's a lot more force with it, and it's a lot of fun. I guess I thrive on the variety of it. I like to go back and forth.
Right, now, but I believe you're actually left-handed, but that you play all your instruments right-handed. How come?
Well, it never occurred to me that you should go one way or the other. I guess use both hands, and I was just imitating the other guys who were playing. Most of them whom are right-handed, I guess. There's quite a few. If you go through it, there's quite a few left-handers who play right-handed. Mark Knopfler's another one. He does it that way. I'm not sure who else. But.
Okay, right. Now, such is the extent of your success that you're a Grammy Award winner twice over. In 2014 at the Best Bluegrass Album category, and previously in 2005 for the Best Traditional Folk Album for Fiddler's Green. As we've heard, you're a sought-after writer for successful artists, reflecting what have been your own major musical influences.
Well, I always valued the people who made the old music new. People like Ry Cooder, like Doc Watson, like Los Lobos maybe, and then the great songwriters, like Dylan, of course, and but the Tin Pan Alley songwriters too, people like Cole Porter, Harold Arlen, and Yip Harburg. Those are great influences. I don't know, everyone I've ever met that plays music or anything I've ever heard has something that is of value, and I try to, respect it all.
Right. Now, I can't let you go without you telling us a little of the family history. You've been very much drawn to Ireland, first visiting in 1976 for the All-Ireland Fleadh in Buncrana, and you've returned often now. The clue as to why is in your song Talking Cavan. Tell us about your great-grandfather, Thomas O'Brien.
Well, he was from near King's Court there at Muff, and I didn't really... the people in my cousins in the United States don't know about Muff, but I figured it out that it's just really about 250 yards from where the fair happens is where he grew up. Anyway, he came from Cavan in 1851. That's kind of all I know. I expect that he was not the oldest born, so that therefore he didn't stand to inherit any land, and there was not much to be had. It looks like it was just the standard little cottage that you see everywhere in Ireland, and and he went to West Virginia. Now, at the time, it was still Virginia. There was only one state called Virginia prior to the Civil War, and he must have known there was work there. He went right to Wheeling, and there was iron mills there, and of course river trade and that kind of thing. And the new B&O Railroad was coming to Wheeling. It hadn't arrived yet. He got a job working for the railroad as a clerk. So I kind of suspect he knew, unlike a lot of the peasantry that moved post-famine to the United States, he would have known how to read and write, I think, and had some means on his way, because he bought train fare part of the way to Wheeling and then walked the rest of the way. And in any case, he had later started a savings and loan for the Irish immigrants there, and raised a big family. And one of his sons, actually 2 or 3 of his sons, became attorneys. And that's my grandfather was an attorney, and then my father as well. Looking at what he did in the New World, I felt like he did okay. When I saw where he came from and where he ended up in the New World, I thought, it's okay. It's too bad he had to leave his native country, and yet he did pretty well for himself.
Certainly did. Now, Tim, I know you've been given a warm welcome in Cavan and at the All-Ireland Fleadh in Cavan, even socialising with Artie Madlin, who's just about worked with everyone, including Van Morrison. Planksty is married to the fiddle player Nullig Casey. You get over to Ireland about once a year yourself.
Yeah, I try to get there once a year. I think I haven't missed a year since about 93. So I first came in 76 and went to the Fleadh in Buncrana and met a whole bunch of people right away, and kind of started a long friendship. And then I would see a lot of those traditional musicians in the States when they would tour. Of course, there was a big surge of interest in the music, along with river dance and stuff, but it was already brewing up, and it was always on my mind to make the connection with the Irish music and as well as the Irish culture, because that's where my great-grandfather came from, and it just dovetails nicely. I love studying history. I love the music. I love to travel, and it's part of my blood.
Excellent. Tim, you've often performed in the USA with stellar Irish and bluegrass musicians, and your album The Crossing evolved from your love of Celtic music. Now, you're appearing in Bush Hall, Shepherd's Bush, London, and then you're heading off to Cork, Sligo and Fingal. Do you get a buzz from the audience reaction here in the UK and Ireland?
Yeah, it's a great thing. The traditional music that I play is American traditional music, and certainly my original stuff is tradition bound. But I think that it has an appeal to the audiences in the UK and Ireland because it's kind of exotic and yet familiar. The same way the traditional Irish music and traditional British music is to me when I hear it. It's sort of familiar but kind of exotic. It's just like a different slant on the same thing. And it's kind of a long perspective. It's like looking at a mountain from far away as opposed to being right up next to it.
Right, and I can't tell you this, that I've actually had a message from somebody I actually went to school with, who's from near where your great-grandfather came from, who's a big fan of yours, and he's requested when you do the concert in Shepherd's Bush that you do the track "The Ribbon in Your Hair."
Oh, the ribbon in your hair.
Yes.
Well, listen, I'll write that down for Bush Hall.
So obviously you've got a big fan there. Tim, listen, it's been lovely to speak with you. Thank you very, very much indeed. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jerry.
Well, I came here from Ireland by way of Baltimore. I rode the train 100 miles, I walked 100 more. And I could smell the smoke pouring off those iron mills before I even saw the town from the top of Wheeling Hill. Where the river meets the road, where the river meets the road, on the eastern bank of the Ohio, where the river meets the road. They've grown this town by leaps and bounds since they built that Cumberland Road. The railroad came in '53 and they're pushing on, I'm told. They built a big old iron bridge, faces to the west. But I stayed here for a job of work, I think it worked out best. Where the river meets the road, where the river meets the road, on the eastern bank of the Ohio, where the river meets the road. Well, I met a lass at Sunday Mass, she was singing in the choir. Her father worked as a blacksmith with the bellows, hammer, and fire. I started out as a roustabout, at night my back would throb. I made a plan, won her hand when I got my scrivener's job. I tied the church, paid my bills, send the rest back home. I put roots down in Wheeling Town and never more will roam. We're raising sons and daughters now, for them I will provide. I'll teach them how to read and write, and walk these streets with pride. Where the river meets the road, where the river meets the road, on the eastern bank of the Ohio, where the river meets the road, where the river meets the road, where the river meets the road, on the eastern bank of the Ohio, where the river meets the road.